His fiancé's twin brother, Hyun-woo, stole Min-jun's first kiss, a secret that became a suffocating weight. But Hyun-woo's reckless actions, born of jealousy, plunged Ji-Hye into a desperate search that revealed a shocking truth. The gentle Ji-Hye was no damsel in distress, but a master manipulator with a secret skill that turned the tables on a dangerous criminal organization. This is a tale of betrayal and hidden strength, where justice triumphs in the most unexpected way. The aroma of freshly roasted beans and the gentle hum of conversation were the usual soundtrack to a busy afternoon in Seoul. Inside his small, meticulously clean cafe, Kim Min-jun moved with a practiced, almost meditative grace, wiping down tables and restocking mugs. But today, the familiar comfort of his routine was lost to him. His heart, usually a place of quiet contentment, felt heavy, a stone sinking within his chest. The weight of a secret, cold and unyielding, was his constant companion. His fiancée, Ji-Hye, was, in every sense of the word, the light of his life. Her laughter was his favorite melody, her presence a quiet anchor in his world. Yet a shadow lingered between them, her twin brother, Hyun-woo. From the moment Min-jun had entered their lives at a university event, Hyun-woo had been a whirlwind of charismatic chaos. While Min-jun was drawn to Ji-Hye's steady calm, it was Hyun-woo who had first noticed the quiet intelligence in Min-jun's eyes, who had first brought him into their circle. The twins shared a bond that was impenetrable, a secret world of shared history and understanding that Min-jun, no matter how hard he tried, often felt excluded from. The secret itself was a moment stolen in time, a memory that replayed in his mind with agonizing clarity. It was after a celebratory dinner, a night thick with a sense of hopeful possibility for the future. The twins, Ji-Hye and he, had been laughing, their voices echoing in the quiet night air as they walked home. Ji-Hye had gone ahead to unlock the door, leaving Min-jun and Hyun-woo alone for just a few precious, fleeting seconds. And then it happened. Hyun-woo had turned, his eyes holding an intensity Min-jun had never seen, and he had kissed him. It was a shocking, bewildering moment that ended as quickly as it began. The memory was an image frozen in time, the look in Hyun-woo's eyes, the feel of his lips, the confusing rush of emotions. The shame and guilt that followed were instant, crushing. Min-jun, caught in a whirlwind of fear and confusion, had listened to Hyun-woo's hushed words, "Don't tell her, it was a mistake." And Min-jun, a man who loathed dishonesty, had found himself complicit in a lie. Now, that secret was an active wound. For weeks, Hyun-woo had been missing, not just out of reach, but truly gone. The police were involved, their questions probing and relentless. The weight of their scrutiny had fallen heaviest on Ji-Hye, who was a portrait of raw, visceral pain. Min-jun watched her, her eyes haunted by a despair he couldn't touch, her hands trembling as she tried to compose herself. His heart ached for her, a deep, consuming compassion that felt like a physical ache. He was a man who lived to help, to fix, to mend. Seeing Ji-Hye in such a fragile state was a torment, a constant reminder of his inability to do anything. He felt an overwhelming, almost suffocating sense of guilt. The secret of the kiss, a moment that had felt so small and insignificant at the time, now felt like a chasm between them, a betrayal that he carried alone. He wanted to help, to make things right, to chase away the darkness that had settled over Ji-Hye. He desperately wanted to be her rock, the solid foundation she could lean on. But how could he, when he was standing on a foundation of sand, built on a lie he couldn't bring himself to confess? The feeling of helplessness was a suffocating, crushing weight on his chest, a prison of his own making. The official narrative was simple, clean, and utterly wrong. The police believed Hyun-woo, with his history of recklessness, had run away to escape his troubles. But Min-jun saw beyond the surface. He saw the genuine, paralyzing fear in Ji-Hye's eyes. A fear that spoke not of abandonment, but of something far more sinister. He knew, with a certainty that settled deep in his gut, that something was terribly amiss. He could no longer stand idly by, a helpless spectator to her pain. He had to take matters into his own hands, to become the investigator he never knew he could be. Min-jun's strength had always been his quiet attention to detail. While Ji-Hye was at the police station, her heart breaking under a barrage of questions, Min-jun went to Hyun-woo's apartment. It was a place he'd visited countless times, a space filled with the cheerful clutter of a young man's life. But this time, he looked with new eyes, searching for a story in the chaos. He found it tucked away, hidden beneath a loose floorboard, a worn, leather-bound notebook. Inside, the pages were filled with Hyun-woo's frantic, scrawled handwriting and sketches of a menacing, unfamiliar emblem. The notes painted a picture of a life Min-jun had never known, a secret world of high-stakes gambling and dangerous connections. They spoke of a powerful criminal organization and a huge gambling debt, a sum so vast it made Min-jun's blood run cold. It was a world away from the bright, smiling Hyun-woo he knew. But the notebook held an even darker secret. Tucked into its spine was a small, unmarked USB drive. Min-jun's hands trembled as he held it. He knew instinctively that this was the key, the one piece of evidence that could change everything. He also knew he could not tell Ji-Hye. The guilt he carried from the kiss was still a heavy burden, and this new secret, this potential danger, felt like an even greater weight. He was protecting her, yes, but he was also shielding himself, afraid of what she might think, afraid of the chasm that would open between them if she knew the truth. As Min-jun began to delve deeper, a peculiar pattern emerged. Every time he hit a dead end, a seemingly insurmountable obstacle, his phone would buzz with an anonymous message. The messages were short, precise, and utterly cryptic. Check the old arcade on Sejongdaro, or look for the tiger tattoo. It was as if someone was watching him, a mysterious benefactor pulling the strings from the shadows. The messages were a lifeline, a trail of breadcrumbs leading him closer to the truth. They led him to a small, hidden safe house, a place Hyun-woo had been using. The feeling of being watched was no longer a fleeting thought. It was a certainty. Who was this person, this invisible guide who knew every step he was taking? What did they want, and why were they helping him? Min-jun had always believed in a world of simple truths, but now he was a pawn in a game he didn't understand, a game with a dangerous player he couldn't see, and he had no choice but to keep playing. The final, anonymous message was a single, stark address and a chilling directive: come alone. Min-jun's heart hammered against his ribs like a trapped bird. The location was a desolate, abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Seoul, its decaying facade a symbol of all the dangers he was walking into. He had always been a man of careful consideration, but now he moved on pure instinct, a desperate need to find Hyun-woo and put an end to this nightmare. Fear was a cold hand on his neck, but a fiercer, burning determination propelled him forward. The air inside the warehouse was heavy with dust and the metallic scent of rust. A single shaft of light cut through a grimy window, illuminating a scene that instantly froze Min-jun in his tracks. There was Hyun-woo, bruised and beaten, slumped and tied to a chair. The sight filled Min-jun with a complex mix of relief and dread. Relief that he had found him, and dread at the state he was in. From the deepest shadows of the warehouse, a figure emerged, slowly and deliberately. He was a tall, menacing man, his face a mask of casual cruelty, and a thin, cruel smirk stretched across his lips. This was the boss, the very man Hyun-woo had gambled with, the leader of the criminal organization. Min-jun's mind, usually so clear, raced with panicked thoughts. What could he possibly do against a man like this? He was a cafe owner, a man of kindness and gentle gestures, not a hero in a tense standoff. He felt the cold sting of helplessness all over again. And then, just as all hope seemed to fade, the impossible happened. A second figure stepped out of the darkness, her presence a quiet thunderclap in the silent warehouse. It was Ji-Hye, but this wasn't the distraught, fragile woman he knew. Her face was hardened with a cold, unwavering resolve he had never seen before. Her hand, which had always so gently held his, was now steady and firm as she raised a small, compact handgun. Her eyes, usually so full of warmth, were now locked on the crime boss with a steely intensity. In that single, breathtaking moment, the shocking truth began to unravel. Ji-Hye hadn't been an unwitting victim. She had been the mysterious, anonymous source all along, the one feeding him the clues, guiding his every move. The gentle, compassionate woman he loved was, in reality, a master manipulator, orchestrating the entire rescue mission from behind the scenes. Her grief had been real, but it had also been a carefully constructed facade, a brilliant performance designed to spur him into action. She wasn't just a victim, she was the architect of their salvation. The secret kiss, Hyunwoo's confession, his own torment, it all suddenly made a terrible, confusing kind of sense. Ji-Hye had known. She had known all along, and her silence was a powerful tool, a way to control the situation and protect her twin brother without ever revealing her true, dangerous capabilities. Min-jun was standing in the middle of a betrayal, but it was a betrayal born of a love so fierce and so deep that it was terrifying. He was a pawn in a game he didn't even know he was playing, and the queen who had been moving him all along was the woman he was supposed to marry. The air in the desolate warehouse crackled with a sudden, suffocating tension. The crime boss, a man used to being in absolute control, stood utterly stunned. The sight of a young woman, handgun in hand, staring him down with icy resolve was a sight he had clearly never anticipated. His initial shock, however, was fleeting. A flicker of cold amusement crossed his face, a challenge in his eyes, as if to say, what can a girl with a toy gun really do? But Ji-Hye wasn't playing a game. Her voice, usually so soft and gentle, was now sharp and clear, cutting through the silence. She didn't raise it, yet it held a power that commanded attention. She explained her motives with a chillingly calculated calmness, revealing a depth of strategic thinking Min-jun had never imagined. She hadn't come here to start a fight she couldn't win. She had come prepared to end one he couldn't afford to lose. With a click, she held up a small device. "I'm sure you recognize this," she said, her eyes never leaving his. "It's a recording of all our little conversations, your plans, your connections." She explained how she had been tracking his organization for weeks, using the very technology he thought was secure. The color drained from the boss's face as he realized the truth. He wasn't dealing with a panicked fiancé. He was dealing with a brilliant, formidable opponent who had outmaneuvered him at every turn. The game, as he knew it, was over. Min-jun, still reeling from the revelation of Ji-Hye's deception, stood silent and motionless. He was a silent observer in a scene where the person he thought he knew best was a stranger. He watched the boss's face contort with a mixture of anger and disbelief, a raw fury turning into a grim acceptance of defeat. The power had shifted completely. A wave of quiet, profound relief washed over Min-jun. He wasn't sure if he should be angry or amazed by Ji-Hye's actions, but in that moment, all that mattered was that they were safe. Hyunwoo was safe. The boss, defeated but not broken, gave a final, menacing look to Ji-Hye and Min-jun. It was a silent promise of future retribution, a venomous vow that this wasn't truly over. Then, with a curt nod to his men, he retreated into the darkness, leaving them alone in the cavernous space. The moment he was gone, Ji-Hye's tough exterior finally cracked. Her gun clattered to the floor as she rushed to her brother, her hands trembling as she untied him. As she pulled him into a tight embrace, Tears streamed down her face, a torrent of emotion that had been held back for weeks. The sound of her sobbing, a sound of profound relief and pain, finally broke the tension in the room. Min-jun, still absorbing the gravity of everything that had happened, felt the suffocating weight on his chest begin to lift. The secret, the guilt, the confusion, it all started to dissipate, replaced by a bewildering, complex mix of feelings. He didn't know what this meant for his relationship with Ji-Hye. He didn't know how he could ever trust her again after such a profound deception. But for the first time in what felt like an eternity, he could breathe. The immediate danger was gone, and for now, that was enough. In the hushed stillness of the cafe, with the dawn light painting the city in soft golds and grays, the full truth finally emerged. Min-jun sat with Hyun-woo and Ji-Hye, the air thick with unspoken words and the lingering scent of danger. They both confessed everything, a cascade of secrets that had been held for so long they had become a part of the air they breathed. Hyun-woo, his face still bruised but his eyes clear, spoke first. He admitted to the crippling gambling debt, a desperate attempt to prove his worth. "I wanted to be someone, Min-jun," he said, his voice raw with shame. "I wanted to show Ji-Hye I could provide for her, that I was a better man than you." And then he spoke of the kiss, the secret that had haunted Min-jun for so long. It wasn't a moment of genuine affection, but a desperate, reckless act. It was a way to create a wedge, Hyun-woo confessed, his voice barely a whisper. A way to keep you at a distance, to make you feel like you didn't belong, so I could have her to myself. Min-jun listened, the bitterness of the betrayal fading as he saw the profound, insecure pain behind the act. The kiss wasn't a romantic gesture, it was a desperate plea for help. Then it was Ji-Hye's turn. She revealed her long-held secret, a quiet admission that stunned Min-jun more than anything. She wasn't just a cafe manager, she was a brilliant, highly skilled hacker. For months, she had been tracking her brother's movements, silently monitoring the criminal organization that had ensnared him. She had used her skills to gather the evidence, to build the case against the boss, and to plan the escape. She had used Min-jun's genuine, unwavering love and compassion as a tool, a necessary part of her plan, knowing he would stop at nothing to save her brother. As Min-jun listened, the shock and anger that had initially seized him began to recede, replaced by a profound and overwhelming sense of admiration. Ji-Hye wasn't a fragile flower he needed to protect. She was a brilliant, resourceful, and fiercely protective sister who had played a dangerous game to save the one person she had left in the world. Her love for Hyun-woo wasn't a flaw, it was a formidable strength that had driven her to unimaginable lengths. He looked at her, truly seeing her for the first time. Her love for him was real, but it existed alongside a complex, hidden world he was only just beginning to understand. He realized that his love for her wasn't just for the gentle woman he knew, the one who smiled so warmly across a cafe counter. His love was for the strong, resilient, and intelligent woman she truly was, a woman who could wield a handgun and a keyboard with equal, terrifying grace. They had both faced their own demons in this ordeal. Min-jun, his helplessness and guilt, Ji-Hye, her deception and fear, and Hyun-woo, his reckless insecurity. In the aftermath of the storm, their relationship was no longer built on a lie, but on a foundation of shared struggle and hard-won honesty. Min-jun looked at Ji-Hye, and he felt a new kind of love blossom in his heart, a love born not just of compassion, but of genuine, unwavering admiration. This love was stronger, deeper, and more real than anything he had ever felt before.